Assuming the weather plays ball, there are just 2 days left in the Louis Vuitton round robin. By Sunday, one of the 5 challengers will be going home. As things stand today, on Saturday morning, the team in the ejector seat is the French Orient Express racing team. With just 1 point on the board, they need to win both of their remaining races to ensure that they stay in the Challenger Selection Series. Alinghi Red Bull Racing has 2 wins, which has helped to secure their position. But as we've seen in this round robin, it doesn't take much for the momentum to shift. And that will be on this team's mind too. Ineos Britannia has 3 wins and should make it through to the next stage. But they're not completely home and dry. They had 2 matches today, the first against the Swiss, the second against the Italians. And at this stage, with a forecast of 9 to 12 knots, the only thing we know for sure is that the pressure is now on. There were 2 other things we knew as the first race of the day got underway. One was that the sea state was up with a 1 metre swell rolling in from the southeast. The other was that the pre-start between American Magic and Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli was the first indication that this would be a tight battle. Up the first leg it was head to head with Dux and Liebau tacks, illustrating just how closely matched these 2 were. At the top, the Italians led by 14 seconds, but at the bottom, just 3. The second lap was much the same, with 7 seconds between them at the second windward gate. But it was after this that the Italians started to stretch out. And once they'd broken the link with the Americans, they were off. And after 3 laps, Luna Rossa took their 6th straight win. With the punchiest conditions we've seen so far, this is a team that's demonstrating how good it is across a wide range of conditions. The breeze was now up to 14 knots and the British decided to play their 15-minute delay card to change the jib. When it came to the pre-start, neither team seemed spooked by the conditions or indeed each other, as they each hit the line at speed and on time. With the British to windward, Alinghi Red Bull Racing started to squeeze to come up to them in an attempt to bounce Ineos out to the right. But the squeeze cost too much in speed and the Swiss dropped themselves back, putting them at a disadvantage once the pair tacked. From here, Ineos had the upper hand and were able to defend their position upwind. And although they trailed by just 12 seconds at the top gate, by the bottom, the time was almost doubled at 21 seconds. The British needed no further encouragement to stretch out their lead, which they did leg by leg, finishing 53 seconds ahead and almost a kilometre in front. Aside from a win, this was a solid performance by AZ & Co in quite chunky conditions. By the time we were faced with the third race of the day, the breeze was punching way above its weight at 18 knots. Both boats got off to a good start, heading out to the left-hand side of the course. The Americans had the edge and managed to tack just underneath and ahead of the French, giving them the opportunity to squeeze up underneath. This forced the French onto the defensive as they tacked off. But as they settled down into the beat, they stayed in contention, rounding 8 seconds behind the Americans at the top gate for the first time. Next time around, they dropped back, but only to 15 seconds. Given how easy it was to trip up in these conditions, American Magic were taking nothing for granted. You could hear it in the talk between helmsman Tom Slingsby and Paul Goodison. There was a nervous moment for them too when they picked up some seaweed on their port foil and on the rudder. But in the end it came to nothing and the Americans went on to take the win. Tough day out on the water. First of all, just tell us how tricky that was, because it certainly looked pretty lively and a bit different to what we've seen before.
Yeah, over a metre waves in any foiling boat, it makes it pretty tough. And then what makes it even tougher is when the swell is not from the same direction as the wind. The waves were coming left to right and it was really tough out there. But yeah, look, we did a good job getting the boat around the track. We had a few wobbles, but a loss against Luna Rossa. We sailed really well in that race, but they were just a little cleaner. and then a win against the French. It was, we were sort of up and down a little there. Sometimes it felt like we were locked in and sailing away from them, and then the next second we'd have a wobble and they'd be back on us. So it was tough conditions.
They put you under pressure, didn't they?
They did. I mean, I think everyone knows that the longer this competition goes on, the French are coming. We know how quick they are. We know how quick their boat is, the capabilities. We've seen how quick the Kiwis are. So it's all there. It's just how quickly they can unlock it. And kind of glad to get through that race today, and it's happening now instead of in a couple of weeks' time.
You happy with where you are at the moment?
Honestly, I'm never too happy with where we are. All I see is the areas we can improve, and for me, our consistency needs to improve. We've shown that when we're on, we can beat Team New Zealand, we can win races against anyone, but then when we're off, we can lose races against people we should beat. Our consistency is something we've got to work on, and it's a work in progress, but we get we've got to race New Zealand tomorrow, and we've got a few days to work on a couple of things, and we'll do our best to improve over that time.
It doesn't help to keep your consistency up when you've got weed on the rudder and on the foil. Just talk us through what that actually feels like. Is that as scary as we think it might be?
Yeah, there's a lot of debris in the water out there today. You're hitting little bits of sticks and logs and weed all day. Yeah, for sure. We hit weed at the top of the last beat against the French and on the rudder, and you could really feel it sort of jolting you around a lot. And then, going into a barrelway where you're going to do close to 50 knots or 50 knots and above with weed on the foil, it's on the rudder, it's not nice. Basically, you're sort of a passenger at some point, and if the weed hits the water, you get a big jolt, and then all of a sudden it clears, and then it goes really light. It's very hard to steer with that sort of conditions and when you've got things on your foil.
This was a big blow for the French, who'd sailed extremely well and finished just 15 seconds behind. But a miss is as good as a mile in match racing. Their last chance to stay in the game will come tomorrow when they face Ineos Britannia. Although today you're definitely under pressure, no question. You've got one more race to go to keep yourself in the game. How do you feel you've been getting on there? Do you feel better about, it must be a bit difficult at the moment because you just want to stay in the game, but do you feel better about where you are as a team and how you're handling? Do you feel that you've climbed a big learning curve?
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult to look behind, honestly, because we did some pure sailing mistakes during 2 weeks, and the boat was at the top, but unfortunately, we didn't have so much time to train, so we discovered the boat day after day. Honestly, we never sailed the boat in those conditions today. We just discovered many things. So we accept the challenge. We push as hard as we can, but it's pretty hard to catch up with the strong teams and experienced one.
What's been the hardest thing that perhaps you hadn't expected 3 weeks ago when you started?
Oh, no question about the weather conditions. Honestly, if it was for the whole 2 weeks southwest with flat water, it would be so much easier for us, also for the others. But for us, as a new team, just have the same conditions day after day, as just a piece of cake for your learning curve, because you can reproduce day after day. We had 2 round robins with many different winds, many different sea states, and you just discover the boat on a crucial day. So this is probably the hardest part.
Tomorrow, last chance saloon.
Yeah, exactly. But we are not dead yet. We can push it. We can catch it tomorrow, and we'll be really aggressive.
Good. Look forward to seeing it.
Thank you.
Good luck. There were no points on offer for the Swiss if they won this, but that didn't change their approach to the match against Emirates Team New Zealand. The Kiwis were slow off the line and the Swiss bang on time. This gave the advantage to Alinghi Red Bull Racing, who tacked to cover twice and held the lead. But it didn't take any longer for the Kiwis to change gear and muscle through to take the lead. At the top mark, they were 7 seconds ahead, but with a smaller jib than the Swiss, the question was whether they could keep their advantage downwind. By the bottom gate, the answer was yes. Even with a big skid through the gate, the Kiwis were 13 seconds ahead. From here, there was little to report other than a gap that grew through the rest of the race to see the Kiwis win by over 38 seconds. This was a good performance by the Swiss, and the second to last time we'll see the Kiwis before the America's Cup match itself in October. Funny old day for you today, Maxime, because although you didn't come away with any points, you look to be delivering a much more confident performance day by day.
Yeah, I think it's still a bit disappointed about the day. I think we can do way better. We know that we can do way better. Normally our targets are better than what we achieved today. So a bit disappointed about the day and the performance of the boat, and probably as well from the sailors.
What was the toughest bit about today?
I think it was what we did good. It was the maneuver. I think we were quite confident on it. Barrowway, jibe, tacks, like everything was pretty smooth, and so it didn't have any impact because of the wave. But yeah, just a straight line, a bit of an issue that we need to solve for tomorrow.
Do you feel like you're ticking off the issues as you go through? Because it was a bit of a wobbly start, to say the least, right at the beginning. Do you think you're ticking off the issues now and you're feeling more confident? Is it a confidence game now?
Yeah, like the beginning of this week, I think we found out like many good things. Like for the boat speed, we matched well the other boat, and we felt very confident on it just after the pre-start. Still, I think our strong point is the pre-start, and we just need from today, like just finding a bit of speed more, but still very confident. And as I said, I think we find out every time why we are missing some stuff.
Having started at the left-hand end of the line, Ineos Britannia blasted out to that side of the course, leading the Italians. When the pair tacked onto port, the British held a narrow advantage as they sat to windward. Then, with a surge of speed, Ineos managed to get slightly advanced on the Italians. This was the first of two crucial moves, as it allowed them to protect their position. The second was that the British were also able to sail slightly higher and faster. They also defended well, matching the Italians tack for tack to stop them getting through. By the top gate, this was a close match with just 8 seconds between them. By the bottom, it was the same. But on the second lap, the British started to pull their lead out to 29 seconds. And by the finish, the distance hadn't really changed, and the British took a win. Ineos Britannia had secured their position in the next stage of the Challengers Selection Series in their race against the Swiss earlier in the day. But this was still a very big win for them. Not only was this a further boost to their confidence, but it was also the first time anyone had beaten the Italians. Ben, what a day.
Yeah, look, fantastic day for the team to get 2 strong wins like that, particularly against Luna Rossa, and strong or medium wins. I think really positive day for the team. Everyone can take a lot from that.
Were you itching for stronger breeze? It's the first time we've seen you in that kind of breeze. You look really comfortable.
Yeah, the boat was going well, and I think it shows what, if we set the boat up well and we sail it well, it shows what it's capable of. I think it's a great moment for the whole team, not just on the water, but back on the shore here and back in the UK. All the effort that's gone in. That's why they do it for days like today.
You seem to have 2 key obstacles today, apart from your opponents. One was the sea state, the other one was all the debris and the weed in the water. Yeah,
it was really tough out there, with the rainfall we've had in the Barcelona area. There was a lot of debris out there. We had an issue just before the start. We hit something with the rudder, we had to stop. We were worried we damaged it. Thankfully it was okay and good enough to race with, and the guys did a great job to regroup and get ready for the race against Alinghi.
Now, those of us that watch you and everybody else know that the mind games are starting now. Do you see this as laying down a marker down to the others, particularly Luna Rossa, who've been unbeaten so far, that you're coming?
Yeah, I think we've been saying that for a while now, that we feel like we've got a lot of potential in this boat that we're trying to untap, and each day we feel like we're getting stronger, and I think that today was a great example of that, where if we get the boat set up well, we sail it well, we can be a seriously strong team. And so yeah, we're coming at a charge here, and we've got to keep the momentum going.
See, it's easy for Ben, isn't it? He just steers the boat. You had the difficult bit today, trying to keep the thing flying.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that Ben's bit's easy, but no, for sure the flight control was tricky today. But I think, as I say, the work we put in yesterday really meant that we kind of came out there today perhaps with a bit of a head start against the teams that weren't out on the water yesterday, and we kind of dialed into the conditions nicely, and I think we were kind of performing quite well as a result.
There's been a lot of talk over the last, well, ever since teams started moving here, about the legendary sea state here and how difficult it is to foil in a big swell. What do you think has been the key learning? How come teams are able to do it now? Is it just hours on the water, or is there a different technique, or what's behind it all?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Barcelona has given all the teams a good challenge over the last kind of 6 months or so, with kind of a varied condition set. And I think now in the round robins we've had a couple of days where it's been quite wavy, and it's quite a nice change, to be fair. Auckland in a way was relatively benign in that sense, but I think all the teams have worked really hard on improving the techniques. A lot of it comes down to time on the water and the techniques in that kind of sea state. And I think probably a couple of years ago anybody would have thought we were crazy going out in conditions like that, but yeah, given a good amount of time, I think you can dial it in quite nicely, and obviously not performing the same as you would in dead flat water, but you can still pull off some good performance.
But looking at the day as a whole, talk about turning it on for the weekend crowd, this was the best day of racing so far in this series. So if I haven't ruined it for you by now, these are races that are well worth watching in full. See you tomorrow.